B-roll stuff. Today we're going to be learning about sound design. Okay. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can create your own sound effects and textures for your own work. When creating your own sound design and effects, we need to think outside the box a little bit. Most sounds that you hear on screen were actually recorded after the film was actually shot. Many sounds that you hear within a film, like an explosion or a gunshot, will not be recreated the same way in a studio. They might use techniques like record a party popper or record popcorn popping and layer those sounds to recreate what actually sounds like an explosion, which is crazy. So we have to think outside the box and we have to get creative. So today I'll be showing you how to record your own sound effects and textures so that you can enhance the sound of your composition. Let's get started. I've already got a couple of pieces of kit with me right here, so I'm gonna have to find a use for these somehow. So the challenge is that I'm stuck at home and I don't have access to a sound design studio. So I'm gonna have to find objects within the house that will create the sounds that I think I might want. I'm not really sure. Anyway, we're gonna go and have a look and root around and see if we can record some good textures. Now for this challenge, I want you to try and do this as well. We're gonna use our trusty old friend, the thing that we use every single day, and you know what I'm talking about, the phone, the beautiful mobile phone. We're going to use this as a recording device. So this is where all the samples are going to go, and then I'm going to show you how to edit those samples afterwards in Logic to make them sound epic. So let's go. So I do have quite a few instruments in this house, but I'm going to set myself a challenge and only use household items. Try and get them to sound as good as possible. I've already got some chopsticks which I've dug out, so I'm sure that I can find a good use for these, but I'm gonna go and try and search for some more items. Okay, so now I've got all of my bits and pieces that I want to record, and I've also made a little bit of a list of what I want to do as well. That's something that's really important. Make sure that you make a list of sounds that you actually want to create before you go off and just record random stuff. Unless you want to and just have a bit of fun, you know, it is up to you. Okay, so I'm gonna just get my phone and I'm gonna record with these. So this is the first thing that I'm going to use to record with, and I'm going to try and record this because I think that this is going to sound really, really cool afterwards when I edit it. So I've got a good idea for this, so let's go. Okay, so I'm actually going to use BandLab for this just because I can actually send myself the stems afterwards as a multi-track, so I'll show you how to do that, but let's have a look. Discard my last session. I'm going to choose the voice mic. Okay, there we go. Obviously, you can sort of set the levels on here. You can set the levels on BandLab if you want to. So that's all done. Whoops. Oh, okay, undo. That was probably fine. Okay. Right. Okay. So I'm just going to start recording this track. I'm going to point this more in the direction to here. This is going to be hard filming and trying to do this, but we'll see how we go. Okay, here we go. Cool. All right, so I've just finished making noise on the radiator and scratching all the paint off, and hopefully this is actually going to sound good. I'm not really going to know until I start importing these files into Logic afterwards. So we're going to see how I get on, and I'm going to try the other pieces. Fingers crossed, it's going to sound good. Okay, so I've actually just plugged my headphones in and I've put this function on here, which is input monitoring. That just means that I can hear how loud the audio is coming through, which is cool. Time for sesame seeds. Oh yeah. Right, okay. So, because I do not play a wind instrument, and this should be easy, but I just can't do it. So I've got a friend to help me record the sound of a bottle. He's a wind player. Right, okay. I'm gonna hit record and then we just make noise. Okay, I think we've got it. That's cool. Yay! Okay, so I know I showed this Pellegrino bottle, but because it's not glass, it didn't work very well. So we've actually got a whiskey bottle. There's a little bit left in there. So what I'm gonna do is record the rest of the sound in there. I don't know. What do you think? Yeah, it's gonna sound good. I've been informed that it sounds good. Whiskey has more than one use. Oh, that would be cool with delay. Cool. Right, okay. So this is taking a little bit of improvisation. So, okay, we've got this balanced on here. Hopefully it's going to pick it up and it's going to sound cool. All right, let's try this. I think it works better with some wine, but hey ho, it's water. Don't worry if you don't have drumming brushes. Any regular cleaning brush will work and do the same. Okay, so I'm just going to try and create a swooping effect, and hopefully in post-production it's going to sound sort of like a big filter sweep, if that makes sense. But anyway, we'll try it out and see how this sounds. One of those has got to be good, I think. I'm pretty happy with that. Thanks. Okay, so I don't really know what to expect with the plastic bag. It could be footsteps. It could just be a texture, who knows. But I think it sounds pretty cool. So let's give this one a go. Always remember to insert a new track, folks. There we go. That weirdly sounds like rain. Like really, really close to rain. That's crazy. Okay, so I'm pretty certain that this is going to be the last one that I'm going to record. I don't know. It's just a bit janky, isn't it? So let's see what this sounds like. Cool. I think we're done. Alright, so we're on day 2 of this now. I did all my recordings the other night, but I thought I'm going to approach it today, fresh ears, and I'm going to edit these samples. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to log on to BandLab, not on my phone because I'm done with this. I'm actually going to go onto the desktop version and I'm going to download each track that I recorded individually. So you can do that really easily on BandLab, so I'll just show you quickly how to do that. So if you log on, I've got my sound design here. This, and then open in Mix Editor. Okay, here we go. So as you can see, it's just loading all the tracks on the the door, on the online door, I guess that's what we can call it. It's just loading those up so I can have a little bit of a listen through the computer. Now I could theoretically add effects using BandLab because it does actually come with its own effects, but I don't want to do that because I prefer working within Logic, and I do think that the quality of the audio effects are much better than what BandLab has, and there's more options. So we're going to stick with Logic for now, but if you wanted to, you could obviously go ahead and edit it within BandLab if you want. Right, so just open that up. I have all my audio tracks that I have recorded in there yesterday, which is great. Fab, fab, fab. Okay, so simply all you need to do is click on File, Download, and then Tracks. So if I click on that, it's got all the stems. Now you can do a mix down, so if you are creating a backing track and you wanted to just solidify all the tracks together as one, then obviously you would do a mix down track. This is just allowing you to download the stems individually. Quick side tip, if you do find some loops on the browser here that you like, you can bounce those down as a track and then upload that into Logic and use it there. So all you do is click on these and then it will start downloading them like that. So if I just come out of here and I go into my downloads library, that's where, so then you can name those as you listen to them, and then I have got them all in this folder right here. New, create. So I'm going to just go in here, select all of these samples like that, and then I'm just going to drag and drop them in there like this, if I can. Create new tracks. There we go. So I've got all my samples in here, so I just can delete that one. Okay. So obviously to edit each one individually, you can solo them out, and I've got all the names on there as well, so I know what it is. Okay.
So as you can just see here, I've pulled all of the samples into Logic. And what I've done, I've actually edited each one. So I'm going to go through each effect and show you what I've done. So the first one was actually this brush texture. Now all I've done with this is added some reverb, and it sort of sounds like a nice little sweep. Be helpful if I played one. Okay, so I'm going to solo me and then solo this. Here we go. So that's the original sound. Pretty standard. And what I've done, I've actually added some EQ. So I've cut off all the low end, so it gives it more of a sharper sort of sound. And then I added a really long reverb as well. So if you just look at the settings here, I've set the decay, the distance, turned off the dry signal completely, so you're not going to hear any of the sort of crackle noises with that. So let's give this a listen. So I was really happy with that. I thought that'd be a nice sort of transitional effect. Okay, moving on. So we've got the chopsticks now. So I wanted to sort of create the sound of, you know, sort of something typical that you would hear in a thriller or a horror, as something sort of approaching, or just an extra percussive element. So this is what the sound is like originally. Okay, so sort of standard procedure with all of these. I first added an EQ, and again just cut the low end off because I didn't need it. I just sort of wanted the tinniness of the chopsticks hitting the radiator. just makes it a little bit sharper. Then I used a pitch shifter actually, which ended up being a really interesting sound. So it added some like a doubler effect almost, and I hatched the tones down, the semitones down by 11, and put the mix to sort of like just over 50%. So this had this effect. So it sounds like there's quite a couple of those, and I think that is really effective. Okay, so the next thing, I added a delay for obvious reasons. And this is the one I use. I use a stereo delay. And I didn't really set these parameters too high, so the output mix left and right is 36-38%. The reason why they're not similar is because I wanted a little bit of contrast between the two sides. And then there's just sort of like standard, well, an eighth and then a quarter triplet, so it kind of breaks it up a little bit on the right hand side. Then I added a phase distortion, which sounds like this. Just moves the sound around a little bit. And then finally I added a reverb, standard procedure, but it sounds really cool. Now, if you wanted to go ahead and do this, if you just hit Option on your keypad, then you will turn this little function here, and then if you just click on the bottom of the wavelength, you can time stretch it, which just pulls it out a little bit. Now, I didn't want to do this because I didn't think it sounded that great, but you can go ahead and time stretch your audio if you want to drag it out a little bit. There we go. Okay. So on to the next one. Here we have the door handle. Actually, I didn't end up using this in the end, so I didn't really do much. But, I mean, this would be really great for sort of like a percussive element in the song. So maybe I'll come back to that one at a later time. Okay, plastic bag. So when I recorded this, I did actually say on film that it sounded like rain, but I thought that this could sound really cool as a texture. So I decided to, not a popular thing that I did here, but I didn't actually add any EQ. I just went in with the distortion. So I'm going to play what it sounds like without any effects. So here we go. I think it sounds pretty cool already, but obviously I wanted to add some more texture to it. So here I went and added some distortion, so added a bit of drive, added a little bit of tone as well, and then obviously just did the output. It gives it more of that sort of like caught in the rain in a city sort of vibe. I don't know, I really like the way that sort of sounded on top. So then I went and added a fuzz-wah because why not? And this is how this sounds. I just feel like it gives it a really sort of bleak sound. It's something that you could definitely hear in a horror film, somebody, you know, walking home and the rain is hitting their raincoat and it's just really dark outside and a little bit moody. This paired with some bass textures and just embedded in the background could have a really cool effect. And then I just went and added some reverb on it again, just because I think it sounded really cool. All right. So moving on to the sesame seeds. I thought that this one came out really, really nice. Very, very simple, but I just started off by removing all of the high frequencies, and this sort of gave it more of a rattlesnake sort of sound. So here we go with the low end cut off. Kind of gives me the sense of you're in a desert kind of vibe. It has that sort of deserty, like I said, rattlesnake sound to it with all the low end removed. And then I went and added some delay. I just think it sounds really cool. And then I sort of decided to just experiment a bit with sound and different audio effects, and then I sort of settled on this microphaser right here, which sounds quite cool, I think. Very subtle but very effective. So it just sort of like moves around a little bit more. It gives it more movement. But obviously that's not necessary. I just really like the effect of that. Okay, so I did actually record the shower, but I didn't really find it that interesting to mess around with, so I left it. Okay, so the next thing that I tried was a whiskey bottle. Well, it's supposed to be a water bottle, but the plastic just did not work as well. So I tried it out with a whiskey bottle, and it sounds like this without any effects, which is already, I think, pretty cool actually in itself. But here we go. I really, really like the sound of this. Obviously, it's got a really nice tone. So first thing I did was EQ it a little bit. Now, I didn't do that much extreme EQing on this. I sort of kept it as true to sound as possible, but it just sort of tightens it up a little bit. And it makes the bass frequencies pop a little bit more, I think, actually, by removing just cutting the very end off of the lower spectrum and the high end, and also some of the mids as well. They were a bit sort of all over the place. And then I pitch shifted it because I thought I really wanted a droney kind of sound, so I ended up pitch shifting this one. I just feel like that sounds so cool. That could be used in a thriller or an action, or when somebody is like ready to fight. It just sounds really droney, almost like a really sort of bassy didgeridoo sort of effect. And then of course I added classic delay and reverb just to give it some space. I think out of all the sounds, this one's definitely my favourite. Now, I added this. Now, you can't tell massively, but it just enhances the sub bass just a little bit. So I found this one to be really sort of effective just as an additional texture. So if I just click on that, you can see I'm just enhancing some frequencies there in the bass. So it just boosts those. Very subtle and effective. All right, so the last one is the wine glass. Now this one sounds so creepy. Let me just take those off. So originally, it's a little bit more true to the original sound, and it's a little bit sort of almost can get a bit annoying. So I thought this could work as sort of more of like a psychological thriller sort of background noise. So I added some EQ, some reverb, some phase distortion, which is actually quite effective. So it almost brings the sound in and out and makes it almost have like a 3D effect. And then the last thing that I used is this modulation delay as well. So again, it just sort of gives it some movement and some space. Okay, so once I'd done that, I decided that it would be a good idea to put it into context. So I actually started working on a project with a film. So I'm going to close that and I'm going to open up my...
Okay, so this is a little while later. I have been editing these samples for quite a while, so please be under no illusion that this does take time. I might be deviating at the moment, getting some inspiration and listening to the Gladiator soundtrack. I would highly recommend it. It's pretty good, pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna crack on and hopefully I'm gonna finish at some point soon.
Okay, so this is a little while later. This is how I have arranged these samples in the mix. So I'll just start playing a little bit, but you can watch the full song at the end.
We've passed on all we know. 1,000 generations live in you now.
So we've got the chopsticks here, we've got the brush texture, we've got the seed shaker that I sort of cut up in various places, we've got the whiskey bottle. As you can probably tell as well, I've panned a lot of these to high heaven, so they sort of sat really far back in the mix. So that's probably what you're going to do when you come to write your own film piece, is to place them really nicely. I ended up actually using 2 tones for the whiskey bottle. So if I just play this one, that's the original tone that we sort of settled on in the edit, but then I doubled it and I pitch shifted it down again. So I pitch shifted this whiskey bottle down by 12 semitones, which gave it that really bassy sort of sound. But then I did that again. So on the second one, I added a pitch shifter and then put another pitch shifter and then some compression and then some. But I think it ends up sounding really, really effective. So and then I cut up the loop. And continued that as a drone noise. Obviously you can play around with the different pitches if you want to, but I really like the way that this turned out, and it was just a really easy way to create that drone, that really big texture within the piece, and I just think it works really, really well. I also really like the way that the plastic bag sort of added this additional texture as well with the drone. It sounds very creepy, very intense. Okay, so I mean that is pretty much it. I will play the video in full for you now, just so you get an idea. Now, obviously I picked a lot of this stuff at random, but if you really start to plan out the way that you're going to put your sound design together, you can come up with some really, really fun ideas. And remember that a lot of sound design, a lot of these, fancy programs, it can cost a lot of money. So before you splash your cash, save your money, your moolah, and try and recreate some of this yourself. So, drum roll, play finished, half finished product now.
We've passed on all we know. 1,000 generations live in you now.